Indiana and Oklahoma City, game one. First thought, I cannot believe Indiana won that game. They had no right winning that game. The fact that they did, look, when you get to the NBA Finals, you can't give up games like that. You can't. Maybe you could. Maybe, it doesn't affect you and you come out and you sweep them the next four. That's possible, right? Just broadly speaking generally, right? General observation. You can't lose games like that. And Indiana straight stole that game. And I question. Now look, man, what does it mean to say that Indiana stole that game, or that you can't, or that Oklahoma City can't afford to lose that game, right? See, a lot of people say, well, you can't afford to lose any game. Yeah, that's true, right? It's 7-game series, you can't afford to. Actually, technically speaking, you can afford to lose that game, right? If you lost and you're not eliminated, then you could potentially afford to lose it. What I'm getting at is that there are losing by 30 and losing by 1 in that manner. Two different things. Because I don't think that Indiana is done. Would I be surprised if Oklahoma City came out and blew Indiana out the next game? No, I would not be surprised. But the game that Indiana played, which I thought was sloppy, I thought they just looked a little bit slower. You saw all the turnovers, right? The game that Indiana played, why the hell wouldn't they go out and try to get the second game? You see, that's what I mean. Had Indiana gotten blown out, right, I would expect a stronger game 2 from Indiana. I did not expect, when you lose by 1 in that manner. If the game was going back and forth all game, that'd be one thing. But I'm sitting there watching the game and I'm looking at the score and I'm just like, how is Oklahoma City not up by 20, 25 points right now? They got so many more shot attempts. Indiana's turning the ball over so much. How are they not up more by now? And it just made you think that if the stats start to even out, right? Because a lot of times that's what happens in a game. It's not necessarily that one team is playing so good and the other team is playing so bad. It's just that sometimes the stats just haven't evened out. So it's like, damn, man, if the stats even out, Indiana has a chance. But even with that being said, objectively, everyone would say Oklahoma City should have won that game. And they lost that game. Man, that does something to your psyche. Now, I remember in 1991 when the Lakers beat the Chicago Bulls in the first game of that series. They went on to lose the next 4, but they beat them in the first game of that series. By that time, the Showtime Lakers were dead and gone. This was the slow time Lakers, and they couldn't keep up with Chicago, man. They would have had to they couldn't keep up with Chicago. This is different. Indiana is young. They're young, and they believe they could beat anybody. Now, this is what I will say. Everyone keeps speaking of the West as if the West is obviously the better conference. And I've seen years in which that just wasn't true. What everyone thought was the best, right, wasn't really the best. And every now and again you'll see a Super Bowl where everyone just assumes one conference was the best, or one conference was dominant, or one team is the best, and then you get to the Super Bowl and it's like, after that first punch is thrown, if the other team takes the punch, it's like all of a sudden what conventional wisdom was is not conventional wisdom anymore. In 2004 I saw that happen with the Lakers against the Detroit Pistons. You had Shaq, Kobe, Karl Malone, Gary Payton, Derek Fisher. You had all those guys, man, and over 7 games the best team wins. And the Lakers just weren't the better team that year. A lot of people, they were favored, I'm sure, before the series started. But it's just that once you get to playing, man, they weren't the better team that year. And I'm done counting out Oklahoma City. I'm done doing that. I expect Oklahoma City to win the series. I'm done counting them out. I will say this, if I'm wrong, right? And I counted Oklahoma City out earlier. I did not think Shai Gilgeous was that good. And my comment about him was that the points he scores don't really seem to stick. You know what I mean? But the dude is great, man. You know, and I was wrong about him. What I will say is this. I believe Oklahoma City will win. But I would not be surprised if everyone got the strength of the conferences wrong. If the Eastern Conference, you know, they may not have the stars or the charisma. I don't even know how to say it. You know, it's just like, you know, when you see Denver and San Antonio getting ready to play, as opposed to two Eastern Conference teams, man. Eastern Conference teams, for some reason, just, in my opinion, just not exciting. I can't put my finger on it, but it feels like the Western Conference has gotten a lot of the attention. They carry a lot of the stars right now. And just some years, man, it feels like the whole league gets it wrong. And I'm not just talking about basketball, you know. I'm talking about other sports. It just seems like sometimes people think it's one way and it's not. It's the other way. And that's what I'll say about this series, right? A lot of people took Oklahoma City to win, and it's like a foregone conclusion. A lot of times when you see that, right, where someone is just counting the other team out like they don't have a snowball's chance in hell, it's never like that. It just doesn't go like that. I've seen that many times. Asked me to put my finger on it, I couldn't tell you, but I've seen it many times. You know, so kind of like, you know, when Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson, they closed betting. They wouldn't allow bets on it. You know, Buster Douglas was a Muhammad Ali style fighter. He was a movement fighter. He fought a great fight. He came in great shape, and he beat Mike Tyson. Was going through some shit. I know. I'm just saying. He beat Mike Tyson, you know, and am I calling Oklahoma City Mike Tyson? No, not necessarily. I'm just saying that a lot of times when the odds are so far in one team's favor, or one player's favor, or one fighter's favor, right? It feels like they get it wrong, you know? And that's the one thing that I was thinking before the series started. Are we sure we got the strength of the conferences right? That's the one thing that's really hard to tell sometimes, right? Because lots of variables. Anyway, that's what I took away from. Oh, the other thing is this: the impact that Chet Holmgren had on that game yesterday is the impact that I expected him to have against Minnesota. I thought that Minnesota would put those big bodies on him and kind of trivialize his value, right? And so yesterday, Chet Holmgren played, got a couple of dunks, right? I saw him, but his impact was not great. And that is what I thought Minnesota was going to do to Oklahoma City. And that's why I thought Minnesota was going to beat Oklahoma City. Because they're young and they're big and they got men, right? Men that'll get between Chet Holmgren in the basket. And that's really what you got to do, right? He's going to shoot threes. You may have to live with that. I mean, it's a 7'2" dude out shooting threes. You may have to live with some of that. But it's all the other stuff. I thought that Minnesota was going to trivialize him. And I think Oklahoma City better watch out. Because I don't know that that Indiana is focusing on Shai Gilgeous or Jalen Williams. I think they might say, look, man, if we could stop their third option, Chet Holmgren, if we could stop him, then we could win the series. They can't beat us with just those two. They need Chet Holmgren too. And I'm not sure that that's not what their plan is. See, I was not watching with that kind of eye. Right? But the next game, I'm going to be watching with that kind of eye. Because I agree. I agree with Rick Carlisle. If Indiana could stop Chet Holmgren, right, then Indiana could win the series. And on the other end, that's that value of that damn Tyrese Halliburton. You see, you can't stop his game. His game is omnipresent, right? He's Magic Johnson. You can't stop Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson goes and scores 15 points, right? Some idiot might say, "Oh, they did a good job on Magic that game." You ain't watched the game, man. Because Magic's value was not in those 15 points, right? Magic's value was in his 15 points and his 18 assists, and James Worthy's 32, and Kareem's 22, and Byron Scott's 24. You see what I'm saying? That's where Magic Johnson's value was, right? And Tyrese Halliburton has that same quality. Same quality. And I don't think that they could shut him down. If I was Oklahoma City, I wouldn't try to shut down Tyrese Halliburton. His presence is just too... His floor game is just too good, right? They should try to shut down Pascal Siakam. Or they should try to make sure Nembhard, is trivialized. But the key to the series, in my opinion, is Chet Holmgren. Because if I was coaching the other side, I would tell my guys, "Yo, this is a dude we could take out of the game. Shot goes up, you put your ass on him. He ain't getting near the basket. Take his ass out the game." And it was indicative also that they started one center as opposed to Holmgren and Hartenstein. Right? I never understood why teams do that. If you're a 60-something win team, best record in the NBA, why are you adjusting to anybody? Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. And you're telling your team something, whether you want to believe. I know you're not doing it explicitly, but you are definitely telling your team something when you do that, right? And it's going to be taken. It's going to manifest itself. You take the best team in the NBA with the best record in the NBA, and then you go and you make alterations to the opposing team, right? They're not changing for you. You're changing for them. You go and you do that. Although it seems like Oklahoma City got off to a decent start, that manifested itself in one way or another. And I want to do that, man. I go right back to what hey man, team, I'm sorry. I'd apologize to them, and I go right back to what got us there. I dance with the ones who brought me, and I think that's what they need to do next game. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad Indiana won. Not that I'm pulling for Indiana, but I think that damn near guaranteed a competitive series. And hey man, I don't have a horse in this race, so I just want to see a good race. And I'm glad Indiana won that game in classic fashion, man. Instant classic. So anyway, this is Pure Uncut Lakers. Please like and subscribe, and I'll hit you up later.